3 FM WBAP. And the big headlines today all kind of circle around the Justice Department. You know, you have Donald Trump right now who has the courts that are just basically throwing up obstacles in front of whatever he's trying to do. That seems to be their modus operandi so far in 2025. He's blocked by the courts now when it comes to canceling student visas for Harvard and some other schools. He has courts that are trying to block his deportations. I mean, they are blocking his deportations. They're even trying to get him to turn planes around that are no longer in American airspace. No. You got to go retrieve some other foreign citizen that went back to his homeland, and you got to bring him back here for what? Well, he needs to have a hearing. Well, why? He's a Salvadorian citizen in El Salvador. Why does he need to come here and have a hearing? But he's being blocked on his tariffs right now. Another court ruling had to stay on Trump's tariffs while they figure this out, because there's some people that are making the case that, you know, if you're going to be changing tariffs like this, you have to go through Congress. You can't just willy-nilly do this, which is a newfound constitutional concern. I'm not even saying they're wrong. I'm just saying this selective enforcement or just noticing of constitutional restrictions on government power. If it's selectively enforced, it's not believable. We have courts that have stepped in and tried to stop him from cutting spending. He doesn't have the authority to unilaterally cut what? Branches of the or parts of the executive branch? Of course he does. He's the commander in chief of the Army and the executive branch. He can make whatever cuts he wants. He's even been stopped on cutting jobs. Hey, all these interns or probationary workers, we're going to let all them go. They go to court, stop them. No, you have to hire them. Well, there's no job for them. Nope, you still got to pay them. What are they going to do? Just stand in an empty room for 8 hours a day? Doesn't matter. Can't fire them. So his big problems are the courts. And then on the other side, there's kind of a tug and pull here. You probably didn't catch Dan Bongino on Fox and Friends. It came on right after you went to work, but I saw it. And, you know, it's the guy that was on right before me for all this time up until about a month or so ago. Dan Bongino was my lead-in show. Now, check out what he's doing now. He's the assistant director of the FBI. And there's three big cases that they have made it known that they're looking into. Fox News had the update here real quick.
All right, the FBI is now re-examining high-interest cases that went unsolved in the Biden era. That includes the 2021 D.C. pipe bombings, the 2022 leak of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, and the cocaine that was found in the White House in 2023.
All right, so those are all great cases. I love the fact that he's looking into those. I would like to have the Epstein list, but this isn't the wishing section of the James Show. All right, now to some interesting things Bongino said in a 9-minute discussion on Fox and Friends this morning. The pipe bomb investigation, number one.
We had 2 pipe bombs planted on January 6th. I mean, we were told by partisan actors out there this was the insurrection. The world was going to fall apart, and no one seemed to show any interest in this case. The second we got in, I put a team on it, and I said, I want answers on this. And I'm pretty confident that we're closing in on some suspects. We got a fascinating tip on one of these cases, one of the 3.
Come on.
I want to say which one, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to close out one of them, hopefully shortly.
Oh my God, don't get me excited. Why are you getting me excited? Because this is something, did you listen to Dan Bongino when he was on here, or are you just brand new to WBAP? Because I think most people listen to Dan Bongino and heard him talk about the pipe bomb situation for years. And then here he's in the perfect position to actually do something about it. And he's around his mouth a whole lot. So if we don't find out something about the pipe bomb cases, I'm not going to be the only disappointed Dan Bongino listener out there. But look, I'm glad they're in on this one. And, I think the most slam dunk one is the bag of cocaine in the White House. It was Hunter's, okay? And, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal, but it's not like a national security big deal. It's just another, obvious hypocrisy of certain people who turn a blind eye when it fits their narrative. Another comment, something that you wonder about, that I wonder about too. The assassin in Butler, Pennsylvania, the attempted assassin, the one that clipped Trump's ear. We still don't know anything about this guy. So the big question, how about number one, did he have any help? Was he truly acting alone?
Did this kid have help? He could not have pulled it off by himself. Was there a foreign actor? Did someone provide him with the weapons? Was there chatter online?
Well, let's be clear. There are 2 separate parallel tracks here. Foreign actors targeting people in the United States. And it's not just the president, it's others. That is a very real track. The question is, do they intersect? The case file now, which, by the way, we are going to make another public release on this coming up. We're just kind of finishing up the product now to make sure it's tight and put together. You're going to see a lot of what you've heard about online does not exist in the case file.
All right, fine. Don't answer it then. But he's on it, and he's promising that we're going to get some sort of new information on that soon. But isn't that what you were told about the Epstein list? And then when they said they're coming out with that, wasn't that kind of a letdown? And whatever happened to that? Yeah, you're focused on these 3 stories, but can we not forget about that one, please? And then the one I'm excited about also, again, maybe I'm just getting set up and we're both getting set up to be a huge letdown here. You promised something about hidden boxes?
Yeah, it was a room, and we found stuff, a lot of
A
stuff.
hidden room.
I wouldn't call it hidden, but hidden from us at least, and not mentioned to us. And then we found stuff in there, and a lot of it's from the Comey era, and we are working our damnedest right now to declassify. And just so you know, because I get the public, I totally understand people saying, well, do it now. The process is not all the information is ours to declassify. Some is other intelligence agencies.
So what?
It's not, we literally can't do it. Once that gets done and that gets out there and you read some of the stuff we found that, by the way, was not processed through the normal procedure, digitizing it, putting in FBI records. We found it in bags hiding under Jim
Dan,
Comey's
really quickly,
FBI. You're going to be stunned.
Oh my God, what a tease. Just tell me what's in the box. Don't tell me you found a secret room with secret boxes and then you're not going to tell me what's in the box. It's like the end of Seven.
I'll show you with the box. What was in the box? Oh, what's in the box? What's in the box?
I don't mean it that dark. But yeah, so court has blocked Trump's tariffs. Should the president be able to change tariffs without congressional approval? I say no. You'll hear from a trade attorney next, Michelle Schultz, coming to the James Show. 800-288-9227. If you have any guesses what's in the box, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, courts are throwing up all kinds of roadblocks to Trump administration 2.0. That's not the end of the story, though. Will he be able to overcome these roadblocks? One of them is with tariffs. There's a case to be made that tariffs are something that should be written by Congress, but here lately Trump's been saying, well, we're in an emergency situation, and therefore, due to some emergency legislation, I have the power to change tariffs on my own without Congress. My next guest is Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. She does international trade and probably knows quite a bit more than me about this. So where does the law stand on this? First off, explain the legal rationale Trump's trying to use.
Okay, so sure. And thank you for having me, James. It's a pleasure to be on. So Trump has been using what's called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and that's a 1977 act. That 1977 act was a result of, actually, a World War I time act called the Trading with the Enemy Act. That was in 1917. Both acts are essentially aimed at emergencies. If the country has an emergency situation, then the executive branch can be delegated the authority to impose tariffs from the executive branch. Otherwise, it has to be Congress under Article 1 of the Constitution.
So then what counts as an emergency?
So in the past, emergencies were things like wars. And I think that's what the Court of International Trade is really concerned about here. The situations that our current tariffs are aiming to address are the day one tariffs from inauguration, trafficking, drugs, cartels, and then later the worldwide tariffs and the retaliatory tariffs from Liberation Day. They're pretty much intended to resolve the issue of imbalanced trade and also the drug trafficking and the illegal activity. So the question is, do these tariff orders deal with those issues? The Court of International Trade decided that this is not an emergency. This is not a wartime situation. And in my mind, is this something imminent? Because trade deficits have existed for 49 years. So how does the president argue this is an emergency?
So he's saying the emergency, sorry to interrupt, he's saying the emergency is just the trade deficit?
That and the trafficking.
I'm always skeptical of people saying, well, yeah, we got to circumvent the Constitution because it's an emergency this time. Because the Constitution doesn't say, well, you have this list of rights or restrictions. Unless it's an emergency, then do whatever you want. So, but how have past presidents used this? Have other presidents been able to just change tariffs willy-nilly? Because I remember Joe Biden did it last year for like solar panels or something. Did he go through Congress?
He actually went through a really complicated process. So Joe Biden had already tariffs in place on China and specific articles. And there are different provisions apart from the IEEPA or the Emergency Act that I'm talking about. There are different provisions under what they call Section 301 and Section 232, where the U.S. Trade Representative can investigate unfair trade practices and the Commerce Department can investigate national security concerns. Under these two provisions, there's a relatively lengthy process involving agency reviews by which tariffs can be imposed. And that's how the China tariffs went into place under Joe Biden.
What have previous presidents done? We're talking with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. Do you happen to know the depth of what happened under Obama or George Bush or Clinton?
Yeah, I mean, we've always seen tariffs imposed, but we have not seen ever just tariffs coming in the form of executive order after executive order. If you were a law student and you were looking, you would probably look in the wrong place, because the only authority that we keep learning from is the executive orders on the White House website, as opposed to the Federal Register or some formalized resource. So it's not It's not normal. This is something new. And we had just, the past few months, I think we had just gotten used to it. Importers have been paying the duties. They've been struggling, relocating, renegotiating contracts. And that's what we've been doing day to day.
So, Michelle, it doesn't seem like he's going to win based on the approach you're taking here.
You know, it's interesting because he did immediately file a motion to stay enforcement. So that is being reviewed now. And the plaintiffs, which include both companies and states in the United States, companies and specific states, they have until 12 noon tomorrow Eastern to file their brief. If their brief is successful and the CIT agrees with them, then this change will in fact take place. Then the executive branch can appeal, and it could wind up all the way at the Supreme Court. But, you know, having read the opinion, I do see that there is quite a bit of case precedent, and there are very clear laws and regulations on this specific issue.
All right, this is Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law here in Dallas. You do international trade. Tell me about this Court of International Trade. I'm not familiar with this one. In fact, I might not have ever heard about them before this story.
Yes, so the Court of International Trade is the highest federal court with jurisdiction over trade issues. So typically, when we are dealing with customs or a Commerce Department issue, we're able to resolve those things administratively. And I can file a protest with customs, I can file a petition, and I never have to go and argue in court, which is great. But if it is not resolved at those lower levels, then an issue can get as high as the CIT. And that's where you go before a three-judge panel and present arguments, and they are really the highest trade court. They tend to be very well versed in trade, and as a trade lawyer, I often refer to their opinions. And so it's a niche area, but they are specialized in that.
As someone who's going through law school, why would you choose trade law? You know, there's people who watch lawyer shows that are about people solving crimes or solving murders or solving mysteries or signing professional athletes to lucrative contracts, but you're in international trade law, Michelle.
Yes, it's a little bit of an odd path that I took. We learn something new every day. That's one reason that folks want to go into trade law. When I started in the 90s, my goal was to do something international. And so I was looking at different ways to do that. It wasn't a topic in law school when I was in law school. It was not popular and no one was really doing it. But I found a boutique here in Dallas that was doing international trade, and I started about 1998 as a law clerk. So that's because my passion is international studies. I have fluency in German and French. My dad was from Germany, and so I've always been interested in other countries. And I've always thought the world is flat, like Thomas Friedman says. It's now becoming apparent to everyone that international trade, that's where it is. All these countries are doing business together, and there's no way out of it.
Right. All right. Well, good stuff, Michelle Schultz, Schultz Trade Law here in Dallas. Appreciate your expertise on the James Show.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Find her online. Must be a fun time to be an international trade lawyer doing all this fun tariff stuff. Coming up, I'm going to ask you some of the same questions I was just asking Michelle Schultz. Should Trump be able to change tariffs without Congress? And also next, should Trump be able to block student visas on his own? That's another court case. We'll go over some of those details next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I say no on the tariffs, yes on the visas. I'll explain next on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, on Newstalk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. All the headlines today, the biggest ones are swirling around Trump's issue with the justice system, whether it's Trump being able to change tariffs without it being codified by Congress. That was, but he threw on the tariffs and then another court stopped it and then another court just put a stay on that ruling while the appeals process is going. So I think the tariffs are back on. We have similar court issues with Trump trying to block student visas, most notably for Harvard, but he's ordering a pause and a review of all existing student visas. I guess they're going to go over their Facebook and Twitter and make sure they're not chanting "Death to America" or something crazy like that. There's another court case on should Trump be able to cut spending just unilaterally once the money's appropriated from Congress. He's saying, no, we're not going to spend that. We'll return it to the Treasury. And there's a court case saying he's not allowed to do that. Once Congress passes it, it has to be spent. Well, there's a natural clash there because it also says that the president is head of the executive department. And so if he's head of the executive department, he can have budget allocated. Does that mean he has to spend it? So that's a big constitutional question mark there. And then should Trump be able to cut jobs? This is the weirdest one. Trump went through and fired a whole bunch of people in USAID and Department of Education, and they've gotten together and they've sued, and some of them have been successful in their court proceedings in getting their job cut blocked. No, I demand you employ me. I demand to once you're hired by a government, you're just guaranteed a taxpayer subsidized standard of living forever until you die. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on here, but it all kind of circles around the same little tornado. Trump's relationship, not just with the justice system, not just with the executive department, but with the Constitution here. And the problem is, if Trump can't control the border, because there's other lawsuits about what he's done at the border, he shouldn't be able to do that. If Trump can't control the border, if he can't control who comes in and out of this country, then it's going to be wide open. If Trump can't cut spending or jobs, even in the executive department under which he is supposed to have authority, then it's not getting cut. If he can't block these student visas, then Harvard is going to be the arbiter of who comes in this country, and not your elected representatives or the president, the commander-in-chief of the military, whose number one responsibility is keeping us safe. Economy and defense, that's the two, right? 800-288-9227. This is Philip in Temple. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Thank you. The lawyer that you had on was making the point that it was really unusual to use this act for his Trump's tariffs. And I just wanted to bring up a point that all the charges that they were trying to put Trump away with, the Espionage Act, well, that was most recently used in 2018 and then 2016 with Chelsea Manning. But the Obstruction of Justice Act, that one goes back a while. You have the conspiracy to defraud the United States one, and then conspiracy against rights. That was 1870. That was one used to prosecute Ku Klux Klan members. They're using that one. False statement, racketeering influence. That was RICO. That was back in the 70s. And then they had the one for Nixon. What was that? That might have been the obstruction of justice. That was 1972 or 3. Anyway, the point being is they're using the same things. They're accusing him that she said that, well, he's pulling up these old things that's really unprecedented. So what's the reason for charging him with things that they haven't used forever?
Oh, no, agree. There's a lot of people have selective enforcement and a little bit of pre-existing bias here, but ultimately speaking, you seem to know a lot about the legal history here. The big question is going all the way back to the Constitution. Is what he's doing constitutional? Now, if I go through the list, it's a nuance. I think he should be able to block student visas without Congress. I think he should be able to cut spending, at least in the executive department. He can't go out and cut anything out of the executive department or obviously Department of Defense. And he should be able to cut any jobs under the executive department. I'm cool with all that. I'm not so sure about the tariff situation because, you look at Article 1, Section 8, there's some things Congress is supposed to do. And one of them is regulate commerce with foreign nations. So that's a Congress job. So 3 out of 4, I think he should be able to do.
Yeah, she said, well, it could be used under emergency. She used the word war, excuse me. And if that was the case, why did they write war and write emergency instead? Because we are in emergency with our border still. There's emergencies going on in our country.
Well, yeah, now you're talking about not what's in the Constitution, but with whatever legislation my grandparents came up with, my grandparents' generation came up with. So I don't lean too far on that. And I'm not sure if we're in necessarily an emergency. I always feel like an emergency is like if the Spanish Armada is coming over the horizon, we don't have time to assemble Congress from all over the country and get them to vote on it. We need a guy who acts immediately. But, I wish I had all the answers on this one. I just kind of feel like 3 out of the 4 of the things he should be allowed to do as president. And where were all these constitutional purists and originalists? Thank you very much for your call, Philip. When we were going through COVID and you couldn't go to your grandma's funeral, or you couldn't go to church, or your kid couldn't go to school, or you couldn't go to the grocery store without a mask on your face, or you weren't allowed to go to God forbid, a concert. No concern about due process there. No concern about the constitutional limits of executive authority then. If you're only selectively a constitutionalist, then you're exploiting other people's trust in the Constitution, and you're not a true believer yourself. You're a charlatan. 800-288-9227. I got some great calls lined up, but if you have any opinions on should Trump be able to change tariffs without Congress, should he be able to block student visas, should he be able to cut spending, should he be able to cut jobs? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. It's unofficially summer, Memorial Day being the unofficial beginning of summer. I think the nerds say, no, it's like June 21st or whatever. But look, your kids are out of school. It's summer. This is the time to take vacations. However, things are a little more expensive this year than they were last year. So how do we make that dollar go as far as possible? A lot of people are looking at short-term rentals. Is that a good idea? Let's talk to Bankrate analyst Alex Gailey. Alex, short-term rentals. We've had them for about 10 years now. What's the verdict on them? Overall good or bad?
Well, thanks for having me here today. I think it really depends on what kind of vacation you're taking. If you're traveling with a group, then a short-term rental can be a way to save on money because you can split the cost of the rental, and you're also more likely to cook while you're on the trip because a lot of short-term rentals have kitchens, and so you can save out on dining. But what we found in our recent study is that when we looked at the most popular U.S. vacation spots, some of these places see really big jumps in vacation rentals during their peak season. And so I think it's important for people to kind of be aware of when those short-term rental rates jump up during the high season.
So how do you save money then? What are some tips and tricks to be a little more cost effective?
I think flexibility is key here if you're trying to be more cautious with your budget when you're traveling. Being flexible with your destination, being flexible with your timing. You know, a lot of these popular vacation spots where we see big swings in short-term rentals, such as Long Island, Lake of the Ozarks, Lake Norman, a lot of water destinations. Maybe you go during shoulder season instead, right before, right after peak season when accommodations are more affordable. I mean, certainly prioritizing domestic over international travel will be more affordable, taking a road trip versus flying. But there's also other savvy ways to save, using credit card points and miles. And again, maybe being flexible with those dates can make a big difference if you're traveling in the middle of the week instead of the weekend.
Alex Gailey, did you call it shoulder season?
Yes, shoulder season. So that's kind of right in between, downtime and the high season. And so you can kind of go right before things really start to pick up or right after things kind of have already picked up.
All right, Alex Gailey, Bankrate analyst. How is the price of gas, the price of airline tickets, the price of actually getting to your destination? How is that doing this year?
Well, we know that travel in general, we saw that big demand in travel after the pandemic. And so we did see, and we also saw peak inflation. So we saw a lot of those prices shoot up dramatically around 2022. A lot of these prices have softened in the last few years with overall inflation just kind of coming under more control. That said, Americans are still feeling the cumulative effect of higher prices and wages have yet to catch up. So certainly Americans are tightening their belts, especially with all the economic uncertainty, but it is overall cheaper to travel now than it was, a few years ago. The prices were rising significantly faster a few years ago than they were now.
Is the economy having much of an effect on that? Or are people, with economic uncertainty saying maybe I won't take that vacation?
Well, we did find in a recent Bankrate poll that more Americans are planning to spend less on travel and discretionary spending in general this year compared to last year. I certainly think with all the economic uncertainty, psychologically, when you don't have control over policy or inflation, you're more likely to choose to spend less as kind of a way to have a sense of control of your finances. So a lot of Americans are tightening their belts this year. They're either cutting back on travel completely or they're taking those more budget-friendly trips within the U.S. I think travel is still certainly happening, but I think it is in a more budget-friendly type of way than maybe in previous years.
Where are you going this summer?
I'm headed to the mountains, so opposite direction of the beach, and I'm taking a lot of these travel tips with me. Again, water destinations really tend to see big price increases with hotels and short-term rentals during this time of the year.
But for the mountains, it's the off season. You're not going to go skiing in the middle of July, I suppose.
No, I'm not going skiing. I'm just going to go enjoy the woods for a few days.
Fantastic. All right. Well, all good advice. Good stuff. Thank you. This is Alex Gailey from Bankrate. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Luke Bryan coming to Dos Equis Pavilion on June 20th. You can get tickets now at livenation.com, or they've been giving away tickets on the morning show all week long. Tomorrow will be your last chance on the WBAP morning show. Maybe you can win a pair of tickets to see Luke Bryan from us. You got to listen to the morning show, though, tomorrow morning for your chance for Luke Bryan tickets. What time? I don't know. Just listen to the whole thing. So coming up next, we have more information on the jet ski killer. And I have now gone all the way to the opinion of, if you're an illegal immigrant and you commit a crime, you're found guilty of a crime, whatever the punishment would be, double it. What do you think of that? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. It's like getting the Powerball in the lottery. It's just a multiplier. Whatever the sentence, 15 to 30 years, congrats. It's now 30 to 60 years. We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. Welcome back to the big show. Thank you to everyone who came out to the latest James Show meet and greet that was in Keller at Manny G's this week on Tuesday, which means I'm looking for the next place. I've already had some interesting offers here. But if you know a place that's like a bar and a grill or a restaurant or entertainment venue or, I don't know, video game arcade, heck, I don't care. Just some place to have the next James Show listener meetup. I'm just trying to go from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. So, because I know no one wants to travel more than 10 miles from their house. That's fine. Just let me know. The only stipulation is I would prefer for it to be in a neighborhood where we haven't had an event already, and the owner or manager needs to be a James Show listener. Send me an email, james@WBAP, or a Facebook message. Is about a 50-50 split there on the existing ideas that I'm getting. But my next story is something you're already familiar with, and now that you've had a couple of days to digest it, I want to hear from you. I know you don't call radio shows often, if ever, but I think I think you'd be valuable today because this has me so mad. This jet ski killing on Memorial Day weekend, and it's not just an 18-year-old lost her life totally unnecessarily, and any death for any family of someone at that age. It's just going to be a big scar on your heart for the rest of your life. It never goes away. And I know there's going to be an empty seat at Thanksgiving, an empty seat at Christmas, an empty stocking hung on the mantle. But it's not just the fact that a family lost a child. It's the circumstances around it. And we always talk about, this could have been prevented if only X, Y, Z. But here's another one that could have been prevented if we just enforced our own laws. If we didn't send representatives to go up there and pass laws, and then future representatives decide, I'm just not going to enforce that. Or, I'm just going to unilaterally create an app and give them asylum status. Where was all the due process people then? When Joe Biden was handing out asylum status. He didn't go through Congress for that. Isn't that interesting? That sort of selective concern about the constitutionality of the head of state. When Joe Biden, did these people, all the Haitians that were supposedly eating dogs and cats and geese out of the park in Ohio, did they all have their due process when they came in here? Or did they just get thrown on a plane? Come on in. Why does everyone have to get due process just on the way out, but not on the way in? Selective enforcement. That's insane. Did y'all sue? Say, no, the president doesn't have the power to just unilaterally, with a wave of a pen, grant all these people asylum status? No concern then, but there's concern now when we want to send them home. So this is another one of those. This is like a Laken Riley situation. This is a Jocelyn Nungaray situation. It's not quite as malicious as rape and murder, but the end result is still the same. We lost one of our neighbors. A family lost a child to one of these people that was just let in clear violation of the law. WFAA has the latest update. This is from last night.
Police say the arrest captured on doorbell cameras came after more than 900 tips from the public and the use of facial recognition software that told police exactly who they were looking for. Deckerlin Alejandra Gonzalez in witness pictures and videos from Lake Grapevine, and her alleged accomplice, Michael Coelho Perozo.
That scene showed how the community came together to try to do what they could to help when they saw something horrible happen.
Investigators now say that after the jet ski collision at Lake Grapevine that killed 18-year-old Ava Moore on a kayak, Coelho Perozo admits he did try to help Gonzalez escape. A second doorbell camera captured them at an apartment complex 3 miles away after a second hit and run, this one in a car, and then fleeing on foot again. And investigators believe it's obvious why.
We're Venezuelan nationals in the country illegally.
Gonzalez is held on a charge of manslaughter, Perozo on misdemeanors, but enough to keep them both locked up until Immigration and Customs Enforcement gets them next. Governor Abbott tweeted this in response: "Welcome to Texas, here's your death penalty." But her best friend at the U.S. Air Force Prep Academy told me this.
Ava would not want anyone to have anger towards her, and so I just keep reminding myself that.
And Ava Moore's family, while asking for privacy in the difficult days ahead, wrote, "This is also an opportunity for our beautiful little girl to continue to impact our community. Out of this tragedy, God will make good, and that can only be accomplished through forgiveness." In Dallas, I'm Kevin Reese.
All right, about had it with this. Here's a new idea. What do you think of this? Want to run this by you? You give me a nod. If you're here illegally and you commit a crime, whatever the punishment is supposed to be, whatever the punishment is written under law, double it. If this is just going to be counted as a manslaughter and she's only up for 2 to 20 years, how about at least 4 to 40 years? How about we actually enforce the law? How about if we have anyone who's not supposed to be here, anyone who is illegally in the United States, they get deported? Is that hard? Because that's not what we do now. Half the time they just let them go. You saw or maybe you saw it. I played you the audio of the body cam footage of Abrego Garcia being pulled over in Tennessee, trafficking 8 ladies from state to state, from Maryland to St. Louis. They knew he was illegal at the time. They knew the people that were in the truck, in the van, were illegal at the time. They just let it go because it was too much of a hassle. ICE wasn't going to pick him up anyway, or whatever the excuse is. That stops. Just here's the new rule. You know, like drill baby drill. How about deport baby deport? Whether they're in a school, or they're at work, or they're in a factory, or they're in the kitchen behind your favorite restaurant, or they go to the hospital, or they're going to court, they're tricked into going to court. No, get them wherever they are. Just go get them. Start deporting them. If you get caught, the penalties double. But in the meantime, you're going to serve that whole sentence before we deport you. You're going to serve that double sentence. It's not going to be time off for good behavior. If we run out of room, up and Gitmo. You have to make the idea of coming to America illegally worse than the prospect of staying in a third world home country. It's too good. We've made it too good. We've made it too easy. You have illegals that are coming here, skirting the law, not following the rules, jumping in front of legal immigrants who are doing the right thing, paying their way, doing the paperwork, following the law. And they have such a good life that they're out on the lake on a Memorial Day weekend on a jet ski. Were you on a jet ski this weekend? I wasn't. So they live this fantastic life. These criminals who are not only running free, they're flaunting it. Let's go jet skiing on Memorial Day weekend. We have to make life a little bit tougher for these people. I mean, they're acting like this is an awesome vacation because compared to where they're from, it is. And until we start really punishing these people and really putting consequences on their action, and just really, we don't even have to get Byzantine, just enforce the existing laws. Until we do that, don't expect it to stop. There's not the incentive to come here illegally is greater than the disincentive of getting caught here illegally. And until that happens, don't expect it to stop. I mean, it's nice if we built the wall and we've kind of stopped some of those crossings there, but they'll find a way. Hell, they'll probably start renting submarines next month. 800-288-9227. Your thoughts on my plan for if you get caught with the crime and you're here illegally, whatever the punishment is, double it. Is that fair? 800-288-9227. How would you disincentivize illegal immigration? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, homeowners, James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. I was talking to John Hopkins, the founder and owner of Blue Ribbon Roofing, last week, and he was explaining to me one of the big mistakes people make is trying to do this on their own, trying to handle the insurance process on their own. And it starts off, you're just on the wrong foot, period. You go through your insurance paperwork, you look up the phone number you're supposed to call to file a claim. You're going to call somebody whose job it is to either deny that claim or give you as little money as possible and get you off the phone. They'll come up with every excuse, and they have more practice at this than you do. Here's a little secret of the pros. John Hopkins calls a different phone number talks to a different person, not someone whose job it is to pay you as little as possible from the insurance company, but the guy who his job it is to be the third party mediator in the claims process. And I'm not going to pretend like I know any depth of this. That's what John Hopkins' expertise is. And that's why you want to call someone like Blue Ribbon Roofing, because you don't want to mess with the insurance company. You don't know it as well as John Hopkins or the insurance company. And that's okay. Admit you need some help, get some help, and you'll be happier with the result. So if the number one reason you're not having them come do their free inspection right now is because you're worried about paying your deductible, you're worried about dealing with the insurance company, you're worried about getting shorted on your claim, Blue Ribbon Roofing can help you with all that. Go to blueribbondfw.com, blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And this jet ski homicides really got me worked up a little bit. Does it make you mad to know that we have another family lost a child for someone that shouldn't have been here in the first place? And we've got to start disincentivizing this. And I think a good way to do it is if you're here illegally and you get caught and convicted of a crime, whatever the normal sentence is, it should just multiply to 2, maybe even 3, maybe 10. But we have to make the prospect of coming here illegally worse than the prospect of staying in their home country. And you got to understand, I don't know if you've been to other countries, but a lot of times when you get off the plane and you get away from the resort and you start driving around town, you're like, whoa, this is your country? Holy crap, I thought that was just on TV. Can we go back to the airport now? I want to go back to Texas like now. You have palm fronds for your roof? That's not a goof. That's not just some cutesy little thing you're making as a cabana for your pool in the backyard. Your house has palm fronds for a roof. Jesus. So I think that's a good way to disincentivize people coming here, is jack up the penalties. And if you are going to come here, you are going to come here illegally, keep your damn head down. If you are in such an affluent, great position that you get to go jet skiing on Memorial Day weekend on Lake Grapevine, you're definitely not going to be buzzing people and causing people problems or harassing other folks. You're not even going to come close to it. Why? Because you know of so-and-so's friend that got locked up and they're in Gitmo now. 800-288-9227. Terry in Grandview, you're on WBAP. What you got?
Hey, James, I got a couple points to make. I'll try to make it quick. First of all, if you come over here and you're illegal and you worked here illegal and you bought things and you own a lot of things like maybe a jet ski or whatever, and you cause harm to an entity or to a person, everything you have should be seized and sold and given to the entity that you damaged.
I think we still do that through civil lawsuits.
Yeah, without a lawsuit. Everything ought to be seized. If you're caught and you're illegal, and, when I go to the lake all the time, I see tons of them. People say, hey, no, they're illegal. Trust me. There'll be 30 of them in an 18-man boat with no life jackets, no anything. And, I'm fearing for them, let alone they don't know no boat rules, no boating rules. I'd like to know where this young lady got this jet ski. Was it rented or did she buy it? Or did she own it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was rented, but I have no way of knowing.
Then you
we'll find out.
ID. That's why states should not be handing out IDs like candy.
Well, yeah, you're making some good points there. We've got to turn off the magnet that's bringing people here. We've made life way too good for them. And do you realize, thank you very much, Terry in Grandview, do you realize the number one problem we have in all the incentives that are drawing illegal immigrants here? Number one is awesome jobs, like an income. You go to work and you get paid more than $3 a day. Like $3 a day. Haha, he's being funny. No, what do you think they make in the jungles in the Yucatan Peninsula? Yeah, they don't make a whole lot. So coming here, dude, streets are lined with gold. If you make $7 an hour, this is amazing. But that's only half of the magnet that's pulling them here. The other, this is a hard truth that a lot of people need to digest. The other one is socialism. What little socialism we have in our economy is what's killing you. What's affecting you with illegal immigration. The reason why the government can force you to pay for the education of illegal immigrant children is that you've allowed socialized schools. If we didn't have public schools, that couldn't be forced down your throat. If it was only private schools, they couldn't make you pay for that against your will. But now they can, because you've given up the ideological battleground on, well, we should have, important industries should remain privatized. We're not going to go down the socialist route. Well, now you're eating it. The reason why government can force you to pay for the health care of illegal immigrants is that you've allowed socialized medicine in the form of Medicaid and other programs. The reason why government can force you to pay for the food, the housing, disability checks, maybe even retirement checks through Social Security of all these illegal immigrants is that you've allowed all this socialized charity, food stamps, public housing, Section 8, disability checks, Social Security. Socialism is the reason why illegal immigrants are so painful to you. Socialism is why your tax dollars are going to pay for all these people who shouldn't even be here in the first place, instead of roads and bridges and other things that you wanted to go for. The number one reason illegal immigrants are a pain to you isn't even the illegal immigrants. It's the socialism. How much nicer would your schools be if they didn't have to spend all this money on people that aren't supposed to be here anyway? How much cheaper would your doctor bill be if it didn't have to cover you and all the other people in the emergency room who got free care before you? How much easier would it be to get in school? How much easier would it be to get in Harvard? 800-288-9227. Randy and Richardson, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
I think that doubling the punishment is good, but I think you need to put them on a chain gang and have them work. And I would not rule out public execution for certain things.
Well, I'm generally in favor of public execution, not because I'm barbaric, but because it has the deterrent effect. And, throughout history.
I'm not barbaric. I think it's a good deterrent.
No, I don't think it's barbaric. We will be accused of being barbaric. So I'm just kind of preemptively answering some of the critics there. And you know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. How would you deter illegal immigration? How would you set up policy so what happened on the lake this weekend with the jet ski doesn't happen again? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. And I want to get your ideas. This terrible accident that happened with the jet ski over the weekend left another family without a daughter here. Happened at the hands of an illegal immigrant. And I'm not saying if, the illegal immigrants that are already here, if we lock down all these other problems, that we won't have any issues with illegal immigrants. But we could at least turn down the magnet that's bringing them here. Why do we give them free education for their children or free health care for them? How many of them are getting some of our government charities, the Section 8, the food stamps, the public housing? Some of them are getting disability. Older ones are getting Social Security. Can we turn some of that off? Because I think that's a lot of people's number one complaints. You get accused of being racist for not wanting illegal immigrants here. I think we're all pretty much on board. We don't care what color they are. They're costing us money. We have to wait in line behind them at the emergency room. Our kids' schools are being flooded with people who shouldn't be here, who haven't been paying into the system, who can't even speak the language, and it's kind of disrupting the prepaid government monopoly you have all forced us into. And one of the big problems with illegal immigration is socialism, period. Can we turn that off? Maybe she wouldn't have come here in the first place. Maybe the guy that helped her escape wouldn't have been here in the first place if we didn't have all these great incentives. And on top of that, let's just start deporting them. I don't mean like, if they've committed another crime and they've gone through their full complement of due process hearings, then maybe after a few gavel swings, we can think about deporting them. No, if you're here and you're illegal, just put them on a bus, go. We'll drop you off at Nuevo Laredo and just turn the bus around. Let Mexico figure it out. What would you do? 800-288-9227. This is RL in Salina. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I'm in Grapevine now, but I appreciate your comments. I've been listening to you for a little bit. I kind of got an idea what you stand for and your principles and things. And I think, and you're probably 25 years younger than I am, maybe 30. I grew up here. I can remember when Reagan, same thing happened to Reagan. The liberals said, if you just let us have this many, we won't do this anymore, and then they screwed him. This idea, what happened the other day on Lake Grapevine, there's a lot of deaths on Lake Grapevine. I don't know if people know that or not, but there's probably above average deaths on Lake Grapevine as opposed to Lake Louisville or whatever. They're not afraid. They're not afraid. They come here, and I have Mexican friends. I appreciate the Mexican heritage, La Familia. I understand what that means. It don't just mean my family. That means my soul, my everything. I get it, and I appreciate the Mexican culture. However, when they come here and they get all this free stuff, they get a sense of bravado that they don't let go of, and then they don't get afraid, and then they do stupid things, and then they kill people with their cars, or they kill people with their jet skis, or they just get drunk and kill people, and we see it. And they're not afraid because they can't be tracked, most of them. Now, these people got caught because somebody had a phone and taped it, and they were able to follow them, and they got them. That's good. But a lot of times that doesn't happen that way. So what has happened is what Rush Limbaugh said 10 or 12 years ago. The wussification of America is what's going on right now. We're too dadgum busy. We don't want to pay attention. We listen to guys like you, and we love it. And we get all full of ourselves. That's great. That's the way I am. That's the way I am. And we don't do a damn thing about it. We don't say anything, and we're afraid that we're going to be called racist. I don't care what people think of me. I'm a sixth-generation Texan. I don't care what people think about me.
So what would you do? What would you change to lessen this problem?
I would do exactly what you said just a minute ago. I'd start. I go on job sites every day. I can tell the INS. I can tell all of them. They know where they're at. We could start deporting. We could deport out of the state of Texas every day. We could deport 10,000 a day. Easy.
I always thought, listen, if we wanted to get serious about it, we would just go to the back of every restaurant in North Texas and start there. We would go to the pad of every house that's being built in a subdivision,
right,
and we would start there. But we're not serious about it. We're not serious, and I don't know how many people have to die before we get serious.
We are until it affects us immediately. Even the liberals, these people, these socialists that you're talking about, they get real serious about it. They want something done yesterday. when something happens to them. It's got to be personal.
Yeah.
And we should be taking it personal because this is our country. This is a sovereign country that's being destroyed by some people that don't give a rat's you know what about it.
Right. All good points, RL. I agree. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Don in Burleson. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I agree with you and I remember you said that you should double the penalty for when they get caught. But I think, James, we should triple it because one count of murder for just a murder, one count of murder for doing it while being here illegally, and another count, this would be the triple, for the victim and the families.
Okay, I'm convinced. Triple it. Good. I like that. No, it really is that easy. Thank you, Don in Burleson. He's very persuasive, that Don. Let's go to Joe in the GBC. That's Gun Barrel City for you people from the big city. What do you think, Joe?
Well, it starts with a lot littler problems. Our insurance in this country is through the roof, and it's through the roof because if you have an accident with somebody who doesn't have insurance and they don't have a driver's license, and even if it's your fault and not theirs, the insurance company still pays the claim when they shouldn't have even been there in the first place.
Well, see, now you're tickling my libertarian sensibilities where I'm against forcing people to buy stuff. I'm against forcing people to engage in commerce, and you're like, well, what about insurance? If you have a car, you're forced to buy insurance because that was the one of the points that was made during Obamacare. It's like you don't have the right to force me to buy insurance. Well, the government has the right to force you to buy auto insurance. Well, it shouldn't. And that is such a fantasy that we have where, well, we made the government force everyone to buy it. So I only have to buy liability. If someone hits me, then I'm covered. Wrong. It didn't even solve the problem. You now have taken on another restriction of your liberty, and you didn't even solve the negative consequences it was intended to address. Congratulations. You're dumb. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, should social media be banned for minors? They're trying to do that in Austin, but I say no. As a father of four, I'll explain myself next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. The question isn't, do you know someone who's on the shot? The question is, how many people do you know are on the shot? Are you on the shot? Is your spouse on the shot? Is your mom on the shot? Is your old college friend who just slowly put on a little bit of weight, they on the shot? You probably know 10 people on the shot. You probably know 20 people on the shot. You just don't know half of them are taking it yet. However, hasn't it been your experience in your entire life where some weight loss miracle drug pops up, gets real popular, seems to work, everyone's using it, celebrated, and a couple years later, there's some class action lawsuit because it was putting a hole in their heart valve, or now you got to get like a pig's kidney or something weird like that. And, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop with some of these other shots. I hope it works out great. But something tells me in about a year or so, we're going to have a bunch of people that, I don't know, have like stegosaurus plates growing out of their back or something. Whatever the side effect is, if it exists, it's coming. Let's ask Patrick Moore. He's a benefits consultant at Protect. Now, I know you're not into the side effect portion of this. Let's talk about how so many people can afford this, number one. I hear it's kind of expensive, Patrick.
It's super expensive, and I love how you framed all of that, man. So it is super expensive. I mean, the $1,000 price tag per month is probably on the low end for most of this stuff. So wait, on the shot.
So I've heard different prices from different people. What is the range of cost that you have seen on a monthly basis, Patrick?
So the reason you have heard a range is because this prescription drug thing in general in this country is pretty whacked out. So the range is in between $350 all the way to $1,300 a month.
Why such a stretch there?
So that's because for the most part, most people get their prescription drugs or their, these GLP-1 medications through their employer. And employers get their prescription drugs by organizations called pharmacy benefit managers.
Oh, those guys. Yeah. Okay.
Those guys. Yeah. People are finally starting to really understand who those people are, but they are the ones behind the scenes. And so we don't just get straight prices in this country. We are given like the retail price is what they show you, but they buy it for wholesale.
Why is this stuff
so wholesale price?
Sorry. What's so expensive about it to even get it to the $300 level?
It's in demand. It's in demand right now. I mean, that there's lots of compounders out there selling it for significantly less. And then you can also buy different versions of the shot for $50 in India. So that's a different conversation.
Yikes. What do you think about that? Hey, I've got to hook up with a dude in Mumbai. Should I be getting my GLP-1s from him?
It's a hot take. International drug sourcing is a thing. I mean, it's the reason the president a couple weeks ago talked about getting favored nation status on drugs, and that's a big reason why. And he talked about this shot when he did that, and he did that because people are getting it for $100 in England, even though employers across the country are paying $1,300 a month.
I'm surprised insurers are covering this. We're talking with Patrick Moore. He's a benefits consultant at Protect, because this isn't like a necessary medical intervention. This seems to be pretty elective.
It is. So there's two different categories. Not to geek out on you,
please do.
There are the actual medically needed, and needed's a relative term, but it treats diabetes, right? That is why GLP-1s came into being. They treat diabetes. And then there's the non-diabetes version of this medication, and it treats, weight loss. And so the weight loss portion is definitely more elective, and then the diabetes is being covered for the most part by insurance companies for that exact reason. Now, the secondary reason is the prices I just told you about, that $1,300 price tag. All of the PBM industry makes money on that spread. So they are making rebates on all those dollars. And so there's a significant reason why they're pushing it, because they make a lot of money on the GLP-1s.
Well, it also seems elective in the fact, Patrick, that I understand, like, if you're huge and you need a GLP-1, like if you're a Ham Planet, fine, give it to them. But I see some ladies that are like 160 and they want to get down to 140. It's like, you don't really need to take drugs to lose that last 20 pounds. I think it's just really being overused.
No, I can't tell you you're wrong. I mean, there's so many, suburban moms that are, keeping up with the Joneses, and they do want to lose the last 20 pounds to look good this summer. That's definitely happening. And then there are people that are changing their lives with the drug. And so it's a huge debate right now. Like I've had friends that had diabetes and they had cardiovascular problems. They've been on this drug. They are now super fit, don't have diabetes, and are in the best health of their life. So
I find it insane.
Complicated situation.
Well, the friends I know, the main driver of why it's effective is they just don't eat nearly as much. So we're spending all this money, we're having all these side effects and all this consternation and insurance issues for something that would be accomplished if you would just eat with a spoon and not a shovel. Pam and Boyd, did you have a comment for myself and Patrick Moore from Protect? How much are you paying?
Yeah, we are paying $150 a month.
How?
Me and my husband each $150.
Is it working?
So he's lost 60 pounds and I just started.
Okay. Is your insurance covering the rest?
No.
Do you have a hookup to a friend in Mumbai?
No, can't say that I do.
So are you using an alternate one? How are you getting it for $150?
Well, it's one of the pharmacies here over in Azle. They compound it themselves.
Okay.
And my doctor vetted them before we went there, so that's where. So I just wanted to let y'all know that
Thank you.
There are cheaper options out there.
Well, that's great input. Thank you very much, Pam and Boyd. And thank you very much, Patrick Moore from Protect, P-R-E-T-E-K-T. Appreciate it, Patrick. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
All right. So coming up, let's talk about a couple of things that are happening here in Texas. Number one, the Texas legislature is looking at banning social media for minors. Man, I hope that doesn't come into law, and I'll try and explain myself next. And then after we get done with that, Dallas City Council is trying to make me pull out all my hair. They just unanimously agreed to spend around $300 million on bike lanes. Yikes. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We'll digest both of those next. And Luke Bryan is coming to Dos Equis Pavilion June 20th. Get tickets at livenation.com. And you can listen to the morning show tomorrow for your last chance to win some free tickets to Luke Bryan. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I know, good to see you too. A little bit about me. I am a father of 4 children. I did it on purpose. Same woman and everything. I'm not like a cornerback or anything. Don't play point guard for anybody. But whenever I see some of these rules that are trying to be forced upon all of us for the sake of the children, I just want to throw up. There is a proposal in the House of Representatives in the State House, and I think it passed the Senate too. I'm not sure if they reconciled them out and it's going to go to the governor's desk, but we at least came close to outlawing social media for minors. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but we got really close to it. And this doesn't happen in a vacuum. This happens about halfway down the slippery slope, where it started out, well, we're just going to have age requirements if you want to watch, adult content, if you want to watch porn. Okay, I was trying to be delicate about it. And so that's where it started, but did it stop there? Absolutely not. Now they want to have age requirements for social media, and God, this pisses me off so bad, because you can't even do it if you wanted to. You're going to create all kinds of problems, all kinds of hurdles for adults who didn't do anything wrong, who right now have the right to go access the social media of their choice without having to jump through a government approval process. You're going to take that right away from them, and you're going to give them hurdles, and you're going to put the government between them and whatever they want to see on the internet. Now, I have so many problems with this. It's not that I think we should have 7-year-olds going through Snapchat and TikTok and seeing what all kinds of obscenities they can run across. Absolutely not. But that's not our two options. There's a whole lot of other things in the spectrum between 8-year-olds having unfettered access to social media and the government banning it for children. For one thing, the ban never works. For whatever ban and whatever way that you want to try and put up a hurdle, kids can get around it. I can get around it. I could have gotten around it when I was about 12 or 13. I was a little computer nerd when I was a kid. I was breaking into all kinds of stuff I wasn't supposed to. I was accessing other computers. I was doing little tricks and putting viruses on my teacher's computers, and then me and Gary would go giggle in the corner. So whatever you want to try to do, number one, it's not going to work. It's not going to work any more than any other prohibition. Wow, we should make it illegal for people under 21 to drink. Oh, well, that's good, because now no one under 21 is drinking. Huh? Didn't that work so well? Hey, that works so good. Why don't you just outlaw meth? That way people will stop doing meth. It's going to work about as good as that. No, I'm not saying we shouldn't try to protect our kids from obscenities, but government restrictions on the rights of adults is not the way to go. Violating disparate third parties who are not breaking the law is not the way to go. Because here's the real way you stop kids from seeing obscenities and obscene material on social media. Their parents. Oh, what a concept. What an amazing... You mean like parents can actually have some sort of control over the media their kids have access to? Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, yes. And as a parent, it is so easy to keep your kid off social media. Here's the one thing you can do. Don't give them a phone. Don't give them a computer. Don't give them the electronic devices, the iPad or whatever. Let them have your phone. Don't let them have access. If you do let them have access, there is all kinds of like gray area in between full unfettered access to the internet and nothing. For a while there, for our youngest kids, we used what was called Gab watches. There's a little watch that could call only people that you were pre-programmed in, and you could only receive calls from people that were pre-programmed in. They could send text message to dad and mom and grandma and Aunt Heather and a few other people, Gigi, their other grandma, but not anyone had access to it, and it couldn't get online. Now, for the smartphones that you do, like if when Granny bought my oldest kid a phone, that was cool. When she bought my second oldest kid a phone, that was cool too. If it's a smartphone, James, you're going to let your 13 and 14-year-old have a smartphone? Yes, because they have parental controls on it. And if you get off your butt for about 20 minutes and just do a little bit of research. Maybe watch a couple YouTube videos, maybe go to some forums and see what other parents are doing. They have parental controls where you can lock these things down. They also have parental controls in the fact that every once in a while, old Parker, dad comes up, snatches the phone out of their hand, puts in the code, and starts going through their history, going through all their junk, going through all their conversations, going through all the pictures they've taken, going through their hidden files. Oh, you didn't think dad knows where to find your hidden icons? Well, I do. Oh, you're trying to be sneaky? Dude, you're not half as shady as your dad. So it's a great way to track your kids. I know where my kids are at every second because I am a parent, and really Miss Parker takes the lead on this.
Hi, Miss Parker.
She's the parental controls wizard when it comes to their phones. I'm the guy that tracks them and tracks their browsing history and grabs their phone and goes through all their conversations. And I know where all the shady apps are and whatnot. So it's a team effort. But our kids are not more exposed than they were before cell phones. We have more control over them before cell phones. Your parents didn't know where you were when you went out, when it was a Friday night and you hopped in your friend's car and y'all just took off. Your parents didn't see you again till what, 11 o'clock, midnight? In the meantime, how did they know where you were? They could probably try and call, I don't know, Brandon's house, or maybe you had like a beeper back then. But they never really knew where you were. I know where my kids are. Number one, because I know they wouldn't leave their phone behind in an effort to trick me. But number two, I'm tracking these fools all over the place. It is so easy and so it's kind of fun because you find out if you have a good kid. It's like, oh, let's see what dastardly things my kid's up to, and then your heart gets all fuzzy because you go through their chats and they're not cussing and they're sharing videos of kittens playing and they're just being good, innocent kiddos, and you actually have a confirmation that you have good kids. But this bill is wrong. You should not outlaw social media for children. It's an impossible task. It infringes on the rights of adults who aren't doing anything wrong. And it's actually taking away a fantastic tool for parents to keep track of their kids. And you should always be skeptical whenever it's for the children. The government has to be able to control and make Facebook and Snapchat and all these other giant multi-billion-dollar corporations jump through this extra hoop because we made them. It gives you something to lobby. It gives you something for them to have to pay you off. Hey, please, how much do I have to contribute to your campaign to repeal this terrible law? But what's it all predicated on? It's about the children. Be skeptical of any law that their selling point. It's about the children. We've got to ban THC. Well, it's for the children. We can't cut food stamps. It's for the children. We have to restrict gun rights. It's for the children. No. Anything, whenever you tell me it's for the children, my default position is I'm opposed to it. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Should social media be banned for minors? I say no. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Dallas City Council is giving me nightmares. They're going to spend $300 million more on bike lanes. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If I can have any impact on this community, if the James Show will be remembered for one thing, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, I want you to be some old geezer that's talking to your grandkids. There used to be this guy on this thing called a radio named James Parker, and before him, we had all these stupid trains and buses, and because of him, we got rid of DART. I want that my legacy to be. This is the guy that finally took down DART. This is the guy that finally took down the biggest boondoggle in Texas history. That's what I would like to be remembered as, because these are all bad ideas. And I've always thought this, but because God hates me, he put me in this studio here where I have to be between light rail tracks on the west side and a bike lane on the east side. And I get to watch just the complete civil engineering failure of all time, the biggest boondoggle of all time. Just all day, every day. If I look to the left, there's train tracks with trains that are almost virtually empty. Some of them are completely empty. And they just come up and they stop and the doors open and no one gets on, no one gets off. And it just happens all damn day. Unless there's like a Stars game, or even in rush hour, you see a train that's like, oh, well, I guess that's like 1/5 of the way full, 20% capacity. If you had to sit here for one day, you would realize this is an absolute waste of money. This is all theater. It's all show. It's all like civil engineering show. And then on the other side, I actually saw a guy in the bike lane 2 weeks ago. That's the 8th one I've seen. I've been working in this studio for a year and a half now. So about once every 2 months, I see other bicycles going down the street, but usually when I see them, it's Houston Street over here on the other side of the American Airlines Center. Usually they're in the street lane, like where the cars are. The bicycle lane actually has a little concrete barrier and it's marked off. It's the safest place to be in Dallas. You could take a nap there. You could sleep there overnight. No one's going to hit you. If you were on the sidewalk, someone might step on you. If you're in the road, you definitely get run over. Bike place, safest place you could possibly be. If you were in the alley, you might get mugged or even worse. Bike lane, safest place. Homeless people should start sleeping in the bike lane. Totally safe. I see bikes on the sidewalk more than I see them in the bike lane. And so here, when you have if anyone just wants to observe it for a day, one of the most easily demonstrable failures in civil engineering in Texas history, DART and bike lanes, just simultaneously. You have to be completely ignorant of the situation to come away with what the Dallas City Council just did. And they did it unanimously. They're now going to spend $300 million.
$400 billion
to expand bicycling infrastructure and maintain existing bicycle infrastructure in the city of Dallas. Oh my God. This is the kind of stuff that I lose sleep about. You know, I don't get too upset about so many of these issues that you hear about in politics. You know, it's like whoop-de-doo. But this one, tossing and turning, because it's so illogical. Let's run down some of the obvious stuff here. The same thing we did with DART when Dennis McQuistion was on Tuesday. When DART was passed in 1983, they had a list of bullet points. This is what DART's going to do. This is how many people are going to work for it. This is what it's going to cost. And these are the promises we're making. And they haven't lived up to any of them. And the argument to spend another $300 million of your dollars on bike lanes, did the people in the Dallas City Council, did they make the case that, hey, you see all these promises we made? See, these are the numbers. It's lived up to it. It's done even better than we expected. No, they don't bring any of that up. Has the bicycle commuter rate increased significantly since we started all this bike lane stuff? Do we have more people that are actually using it? Because that's what we were told. Oh, we give them some room and they'll actually use it. The reason why people aren't riding bikes is because there's no bike lanes. Well, we have bike lanes and people still aren't riding bikes. So failure number one right there. Can we just start right there? Has auto traffic improved? You know, for every person on a bicycle, they're not in a car. And so the flow of traffic for all of the rest of us losers in cars, has that improved? Nope, gotten worse. Now we have to wait for trains, and we have goobers and bike lanes every 2 months that are taking up, like over here on Houston Street. That would be a whole nother lane of traffic where every day, every second, more cars could go through it. But no, we have to wait for that bi-monthly bicyclists in the bicycle lane. Have commuter injuries and fatalities improved? No. In fact, when they do the studies, that's the most dangerous way to get to work is on a bicycle. And I think the big killer is, hey, are the existing bike lanes even being used? Absolutely not. Here's the killer. Is anyone proposing the plan that's going to take $300 million out of your cash registers and spend it on bike lanes? Do any of them take their bike to work every day? Does anyone take their bike to work every day? What if it's snowing? What if it's raining? What if it's 108 degrees? Terrible idea, and yet it persists. Mike, Fort Worth, your thoughts on bike lanes. Go.
I agree with you. And I think the best way to stop this foolishness is to mandate every council member, every city employee, and every citizen on city commission that advocates for bike lanes, they should be required, just as you said, to ride their bike. And it should be 24/7, 365. They do not have the use of a car. They must ride a bike, rain or shine, cold or hot.
I love that. Yeah, but you're going to vote for this? How about you live the lifestyle that you're spending $300 million damning other people to? I don't even know why. You're not someone's friend if you're encouraging them to forego owning a car and ride a bike. How are you going to go to the grocery store? How are you going to go out on a date? How are you going to go take your kid to soccer practice? How are you going to go buy a chair at World Market and get it home? And like, it's one of the worst transportation options possible. It's one of the most dangerous transportation options possible, and it's one of the most useless ways that we can allocate our scarce transportation dollars and real estate, eating it up with bike lanes. It blows my mind that anyone would support this, and then I say that, and I turn around, and every single person in the Dallas City Council thinks this is a good idea. This is a terrible idea. Do they all have brain damage? How do we explain this, Mike?
Because they all vote in lockstep, and this agenda is decided way in advance. There's no discussion or no debate, and they have the agenda and the talking points they're supposed to follow, and that's what every one of them does.
Good explanation. I got to run. That's Mike in Fort Worth, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Your thoughts on $300 million for bike lanes? Terrible idea. We'll talk about it next. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, my worst nightmares are coming true, according to the Dallas Morning News. The Dallas City Council unanimously all agreed that they're going to spend $300 million more of your taxpayer dollars to expand and maintain bike lanes. Good God, I hate bike. If you've never listened to the show before, I think it might be what I hate the most. Well, DART in general, but all the public transportation that's been happening around here. And really, it's a problem with any town that tries this. They all fail. It's all a huge, embarrassing failure. $300 million? Weren't we just so broke that last year we had to issue some new bonds, like over $1 billion worth of new debt and bonds were sold on behalf of the Dallas taxpayers? But we have money for this. Nice. Does anyone even use the bike lanes? Are any of the people that are going to take $300 million out of your property taxes, out of your cash registers, out of your sales tax, do they even use bikes? Does anybody take a bike to work 365 days a year or 250 days a year if you want to be a jerk about it? Because I've even lived in a situation where I've been in a dense area of town and I lived really close to work and I had the option of taking my bike to work. And sometimes I would. But not if it was 108 degrees and I had like a meeting where I didn't want to go into it being all sweaty and smelling like Bigfoot. I definitely didn't take it when it was super cold. I didn't take it if it was raining. I didn't take it if there was a hint of rain later in the day. It was a nicety. It was a luxury. It was a convenience. But it is awful. It's so flawed. And I just can't believe how an idea as terrible as bike lanes can persist in the face of all this obvious evidence against it. 800-288-9227. This is Tina and Keller. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think there's already laws in place that they don't need to have new money for new laws. Second, I don't believe that the cops' pensions got this money. I think they should have allowed this money to go to that or to the schools that are hurting too.
Yeah, so there's a shortage of money so often when we have some of our priorities that are on the table. That I remember, and I know this isn't a city or even a state thing, but it's a federal thing. And Trump 1.0, remember when he wanted to fund the wall and the first spending bill that was going to appropriate money to the wall was $4 billion? And there was a bunch of people in D.C. who was like, well, we can't do that. I mean, this will explode the deficit. We can't spend $4 billion on a border wall. Jeepers, I'm going to have to check with my accountant and see if we can make this happen. Meanwhile, the next time the Ukraine war popped off, $200 billion right off the bat. No questions asked, no concern about the deficit or the debt or who's going to fund it or if this is good for the American people. It's a very selective financial concern these people have.
Yes.
Generally speaking, you like bike lanes?
Not at all.
All right, I agree. You're listening to the right show. We can be friends, Tina and Keller. Let's go to Mike in Sulphur Springs. You're on WBAP. Your thoughts on the bike lanes?
Yes. What I was concerned about and kind of thinking about is, they had a city council meeting here, a few years ago or last year, because they were under budget because they couldn't hire any more police officers to patrol because they couldn't pay them. Where did this $300 million come from for a little pig trail?
Oh, fairy dust, unicorn urine. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's never a shortage of money when they want to fart it away on bike lanes or light rail. Or God, the worst is just the concept of a light rail train all the way from here to Houston. It's just I can't think of a dumber idea. Like maybe if we got rid of bike lanes and we had lanes that were exclusively for big wheels, that the kids ride until they're about 4 years old. Maybe we should just have big wheel lanes. If we're all going to be running around and trying to commute on children's toys, maybe we should have scooter lanes or tricycle lanes. It's just
there you go. That's it.
Just one terrible idea after another, man.
It seems like anything that makes sense to help out, we don't have the money for that.
Right. What would improve our standard of living better? Bike lanes or cops? What do you think about that one, Mike? Thank you.
Well,
Good call, bud. Appreciate it. 288-9227. Now, this is another confounding thing. I'm going to take 8 more calls, or I could take probably 20 more calls on this, and everyone's going to be agreeing with me. Bike lanes are dumb. Bike lanes are dumb. I'm going to leave here, and if I go out to a bar tonight, I can talk to my friends about bike lanes, and they'll be like, yeah, bike lanes are stupid. We may run into some young girl who's like, oh, no, that sounds fun. But for the most part, in the real world, when I'm talking face to face with people at my brother-in-law's house or at some kid's sporting event where I got to hang out with my kids' friends' parents and stuff, we all sound the same. Yet I look at Dallas City Council and they were unanimous. They couldn't wait to waste $300 million on another terrible idea. Brian, Duncanville, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I need a chance to wear my spandex, because I look so good in them.
Oh, Brian, now you're getting into some subjective stuff that I don't feel as comfortable complaining about because this is just some personal beefs that I have. But yeah, you look like fools. The guys, not if you're in normal civilian clothes on a bicycle, whatever. But you guys that wear like the little tight shorts and the super tight shirt and you've got the aerodynamic helmet, you look embarrassing. Like, what do? You go in the store like that? Is this the Olympics? You're trying to be all, and then they're like, it's aerodynamic. Oh, shut up. You're not a sports car, dude.
I'm with you. I don't agree in spending the money on that or DART or any of that public transportation stuff. But if it was instead of a bike lane, if it was, let's say, a motorcycle lane, then I could get on board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, right. At least motorcycle lanes, motorcycles run on gas and go fast, and people actually use them. 800-288-9227. These people just exhaust me. I have such a hard time understanding how terrible ideas persist like this. And we'll continue talking about bike lanes, and then I got time to squeeze in. This Trump administration has ordered a halt to all student visa applications. I love it. It's a court battle he's going through right now. We'll talk about that next as well on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. One of the worst ideas possible, just is getting $300 million from the taxpayers of Dallas. Dallas City Council unanimously agreed to spend $300 million on expanding bike lanes and repurposing and refurbishing existing ones. And just to let you know, I didn't write the article. I'm not trying to be funny here, but the mileage on these bike lanes is kind of silly. When you look at the roadmap here, like how many miles of bike lanes do they want? Do they ever tell you? Because the proposed bike network includes more than 500 miles of bicycling improvements, 179 miles of neighborhood bikeways, 118 miles of visually separated bike lanes, 108 miles of physically separated bike lanes, and 139 miles of trails. Funding is currently in place for 69 miles. That's what it says in Dallas Morning News. What do you want me to say? James in Plano, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous, but there's one way to justify that. They used to have those counters they put across the highway with a rubber tube on it.
Yeah.
Set them up in the bike lanes. If you don't have at least 30 a day, 300 a month, or 10 a day, 300 a month, yank it out.
God, that's so low. You realize 10 a day? That's like not even one every 2 hours.
Put a number to it, but at least go out and make an effort to see how much they're being used. Like you said, yours is you basically want 1 or 8 of them since you've been there. So at least it's a report that would justify yanking them out.
Yeah, there's no accountability. There's no metric. There's no stats on the back of their baseball card. They don't even get a report card. They just, whatever it is, they declare it a success. What if it's a train, it's a bus, it's a bike lane? Isn't this great? We should expand this. This is such a success. According to who? Good stuff, James. Yeah, let's actually measure this. John, also in Plano. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
My question is, when you're talking about DART, are you including buses or you're just talking about the trains?
All of it.
Okay. My thing would be just to cut back service initially. I mean, the stuff we've already paid for it. We've got the tracks. We've got we've got the cars. The train cars. Just cut back service. Like you said, rush hours when you see a little blip. So just have them running then, and maybe have one guy on that runs the rest of the day, and people will know what the schedule is, and they'll do it accordingly. And then eventually, if that's not working, then just phase it out completely.
Well, see, the opposite happened. We started out with this scaled down schedule that was only, at the peak times. And then they eventually kept expanding it because it was we already know. We don't have to try it, John. It failed on every iteration that we've tried. The only way I would relent on the idea of just pulling up all the tracks and writing an apology letter to the taxpayers and selling it back to public commerce, so they could put a McDonald's or something on there, is if we privatize it. If we let some private company come in here and they decide when we run trains and where they're going to stop and how often they're going to run and how they're going to be policed and how much the fare is going to be and all that. Maybe if we tried to privatize it, but I already know that that's going to fail because everywhere we've tried that in other metropolitan areas, everywhere on planet Earth except for one train line between Tokyo and Osaka, they've all been not profitable. And it's sometime around like 1960 or so when trains stopped being profitable in the U.S. And then as other countries develop and people get cars and they have other options, it's an obsolete technology. It's just like windmills. It's just like the abacus. It's like something that used to be useful, and I can understand why people would think it's useful now, but it's not, and it's terrible waste of our scarce taxpayer resources because we've got $300 million for bike lanes, but we can't hire enough cops. Something's wrong with the priority data set there, John.
No, I get that. What do you do with the people who, even though they're a small group, who rely on public transportation because they just can't afford a vehicle? What do we do with that?
Well, if there's enough of them, then what we do is we relax street regulations to let private sector bus companies fill that gap. Or it could be a charity. Okay. You could have like some guy that volunteers to drive the church van on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we go pick up seniors from the senior group and we take them to the grocery store, to their doctor appointment or whatever. I'm not saying we leave them all in the lurch. I'm just saying let's not put charity in the hands of the Dallas City Council because they're doing a horrible job with the stewards of $300 million if they're throwing it at bike lanes.
Yeah, I agree. And as long as you had that alternate strategy of having, the charitable or private to take care of the people that need it, that's perfect because
Well,
the money that's being spent is ridiculous.
Well, if there's a demand for it, if there's enough of these people, like some people claim, then some evil capitalist pig will come in and they'll fill that demand in the marketplace, and we won't have to worry about it. There will probably be better service on cleaner buses that may even be cheaper and faster than what we're seeing now. But at least, John, you and I don't have to pay for it against our will. All good points here. And I can already tell you where I'm starting tomorrow. Another stupid boondoggle that I just saw on, was this on the, no, this was on the Dallas Express. The Dallas City Council just agreed, they voted 12-3. What was this? Yesterday. To provide $5.5 million for a WNBA, the Dallas Wings is our WNBA team, for their practice facility, for their, and this isn't even like to build it. This is $5.5 million for the design of a training facility, which is expected to cost $48 million. And God forbid if we have to pay for that too. If we are on the hook and we think it's so important that we help with the design of a practice gym for a WNBA team that loses money every year, but we don't have enough money for cops, something's wrong with the way Dallas is being run. All right, I'm out of time. What a great show. You guys were fun. 800-288-922. Don't call. I'm about to get off the phone. I meant to say, if you want the Rhino list, send me an email, james@wbap.com. If you have a suggestion for the next James Show meet and greet next month, also james@wbap.com. Now, stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.